This video is brought to you by Megalopolis, City of Collectibles. Trying to pre-order your figures? Do so right now at Megalopolis, link in the description below. Hey, what's up you guys? ShartimusPrime here at New York Toy Fair 2020, here at the McFarlane Toys booth with the man himself, Mr. Todd Mcfarlane.
Good to see you again.
Yeah,
thanks for coming by.
Yeah, thanks for having us. I'm very excited for what I'm seeing over here. I have been thrilled with the DC Multiverse figures. I'm sure you've heard a lot of praise about these figures, and
people are responding well to it. But I can tell you in all seriousness, the best is still yet to come. Right? We're just getting warmed up. We're just getting warmed up with it. Yep.
I've seen some of your interviews online, and you're a true artist at heart. That will never go away. And,
right.
And the way you talk about these figures is like, okay, there's something here that we can do differently, and we're bringing ideas here and there. So that's something that the viewers should know, is that changes to the line are to come in the future. And
well,
we're not major changes. I'm not trying to speak for you.
Just the sexy's coming, right? So again, we started with a bunch of figures that again everybody knows in the looks and stuff. But DC and the DC Multiverse has been around, literally since 1936, and there's just such a vast array of looks and feels and stuff. And they don't have to, in my mind, they don't even have to be looks that people know in comic books. Mm-hmm. They can just be the looks that you go, wow, that would be a good looking toy. That would be a good looking toy.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, one thing I think would be a really good looking toy is Todd Mcfarlane art renditions of these characters in figure form, because I've seen the Spawn. That looks like something you drew, just turned into plastic. I mean, the detail on it and everything, it just looks amazing. So I'm kind of curious if we're going to see, like a Todd McFarlane Batman. I really would like to see that in action figure form.
Yeah. So would I. So we'll see. Again, we're only in our first wave of toys.
Right.
And then you see what we've got coming out here, some of the stuff with, the White Knight and stuff. I mean, you're getting some cool stylized stuff.
Right.
And then depending upon how all that works, then, I'm sure that we'll be able to just keep going and getting crazier and crazier with it. So, but I hopefully I'll get to unleash my DC brain. But the thing is, you were saying, as an artist, every brand that exists, right? Mm-hmm. If I close my eyes, I've got my version of it in my head someplace. It'd be nice to actually get it out either on paper and plastic.
Right.
So,
I love what's coming from the Mortal Kombat. You have a lot of Mortal Kombat stuff going on.
Yeah, the Spawn character, the DLC is going to be coming out here pretty soon. I'm going to be in Chicago here for the final combat that they're doing, and they're going to unleash him. I think they're going to actually show some of his moves and fatalities and stuff like that, possibly at the show. If not, we're gonna be hyping Spawn. I'm gonna be there with Keith David, the voice.
Oh right.
And so we're having a good time.
Man, so
but I've seen how he plays in the game. It's pretty cool.
Oh wow.
Right. So I turned to them and went, I want you to make Spawn the coolest character in your game. Go, right? I don't care if it's like what he does in the movie. I don't care if it's what he does in the comic book. Like, make him the coolest Mortal Kombat character that you possibly can, right? So.
Right, yeah. Oh, and congratulations, by the way, on hitting the milestone. I think it's the longest running independent
creator-owned.
Okay.
Independent's a weird word for me.
Oh, okay. So
corporations can still own independent companies.
I see, because that's one thing you pride yourself in, that is that you are independent. Right. You're not a public company. You're your own thing.
And the character of Spawn, the person who created it, which was me, still owns it 27 years later.
That's
right?
amazing.
So yeah, the longest running creator-owned comic book in the history of mankind. Not in America. Not superhero comic book, mankind. Doesn't matter what the content is.
In all of history.
Yeah,
that's very impressive. That's great to see that going strong. And just to double back to the DC thing, I wanted to ask again, or I meant to ask earlier, is that so we saw like a collect and connect with the Batmobile.
Correct.
Are we going to get like a collection of smaller scale Batmobiles like that in the future, or are we going to see it?
I was hoping so, because I thought it was cool. right? And we had made 2 or 3 of them, and what's really fun about anything you collect when you start putting it next to each other, it looks really good. But they're moving us away from the vehicle, so the next one will basically be what's out in the marketplace, which is a build-a-fig. So we'll do a build-a-fig. I think that will be 4 figures though.
Okay.
Right? Only 4 instead of 6. I think you're pushing the limits of a consumer, which is why the cars were cool, because you could have like a left, right, and middle, and you only had to buy 3, right? And so that was one of, and it actually did quite well for us. It's doing quite well for us right now. But if you do 6, to me, sometimes by the time you get to the 5th or 6th in any brand, it's not the most popular, and then you're sometimes doing a character that's the build that isn't overly popular. So I think you're asking a lot from a consumer sometimes on some of it. So we're trying to come up with these 3 or 4 figure ways to build something real quick and still have a cool, meaningful figure.
Right on. Yeah, I've heard people complain about the scale about it, and I think like the number one thing you may have heard is I want to pose my Batman with my Spider-Man, and they're not in the same scale and whatnot.
Right,
and
mine's bigger and it kicked the ass out of all the other figures. So, here's what people who haven't run their own business don't understand. That whatever you want personally, there's about 8 billion people who don't want that same thing. And I'm in the business to try and sell to 8 billion, not 8.
Right.
And so I understand the complaint to a certain extent. Here's why I did it. First off, mine are bigger than everybody else's. Touche. Number 2, I've seen people have Batman and Superman collections. I've seen it on the shelf. They're like Superman freaks. And they've got like 900 different Supermans on the shelf. You seen that collection?
Yeah.
Everything from this size to this size. Somehow it doesn't affect them that they can buy from 1 inch to 15 inches and whatever else. You're sitting there. And then just from my perspective, from a consumer perspective, you're walking down the aisle and you go, oh my gosh, $20, $20, $20, $20, right?
Yeah.
It's more plastic for the same amount. And if you think about it as a Hershey bar, you can either get this much chocolate for $20, or you can get this much. Take the bigger piece of chocolate. Like it's so. The majority of people who are taking it are not going online and sitting there typing it. They're buying it because it's like a good value and it's lots of plastic. This guy right here.
Yeah,
you should take this guy home, not because you're a comic book collector, but because that's a big dude.
Oh, it's just too badass to resist.
And it's a lot of plastic, and he's got big giant wings for $20.
Yeah.
So is he bigger than the previous scale? Yeah. That's, to me, as a consumer, that's not a bad thing. Yeah. That's a good thing. I get that for $20. Whoop.
Yeah.
Oh, my wing. My wing fell off. So I get that for $20. So I got to sell to the average consumer. I can't be worried about like specifics of people who happen to have a big collection or something like that.
They want them all 6 inch.
I got to sell cool stuff.
Right.
And anyway, your Batman. I know you want to pose with it, but this Batman's going to kick the heck out of any other Batman that you have right here.
Yeah. I love that. That Hellbat's my favorite one from the DC figures you've done so far. I've always thought that it was kind of a funny idea to want to like have the different licensed characters fighting together, and that being your main reason. To me, that the reason why I love this scale, but at the same time, I still kind of wish you're going 6 inch, just because I heard you mention before that you want to stick to more mainstream characters, right? Like, because it is going to be a harder sell, like Ray or something. The Ray, like if you're going to try to sell the Ray figure, I could understand why you wouldn't want to, or a Mazo or something like these, kind of obscure DC characters. Yeah. I don't think they're near the top of your list of what you're going to be making, but there are 6 inch versions of those that exist already. So it would be cool to be able to combine, the two different companies into one collection, especially if we're going to stick to, if the McFarlane Toys figures are going to be more the mainstream characters.
So can I just have a rant?
Yes. You may.
Would you want me to do the previous companies made figures that I thought were inferior, and I'm going to only get better, right? And so they made them. What people want me to do at times is to repeat what to me was an inferior item. I'm not going to do it. They're going to say, hey, this item that I collected that I have in which that company doesn't even have the license or that product isn't even coming out because it didn't sell enough. I want you to repeat the thing that doesn't sell enough. I can't do that. I won't do that. I've stayed in business for 25 years because I do stuff that other people want. So if I lose 20,000 people because it's not the same size, my calculation is I'll make 25,000 to the left that will go, oh my God, that's a big, good price. And oh, by the way, I'm 20 and I'm just starting to collect. I don't have that thing that guy has been collecting for 12 years,
that's
right?
A good point.
Like, I did sports. You know how many people wanted me to do Buffalo Sabres hockey players? All the Buffalo Sabres fans. But I can't sell Buffalo Sabres on a national level. I can't do it, right? So I have to sell product on a wide, broad scale so that I can keep doing it for 30 years so that I can keep doing it. And if your biggest gripe is that I'm giving you too much plastic, I'll take that as the criticism 30 years into the game, because the game is about survival.
Right.
And so that's it. So I get it. It's the same conversation I've had with people about how much articulation is too much and how much is too little, right?
Oh,
Everybody has their line of doing it. My job is to just put out what I think is the best product I can at a given time at the best price that I can, and then step aside and let the consumers buy. And if the majority of people say, oh my gosh, we're not buying it because you're giving us too much plastic, seems like an odd thing, at too good of a price, which seems like an odd thing, then the sales will tell me that, and then I'll act accordingly. Right now, the sales are actually saying the opposite.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
they're buying
it's encouraging
it. They're liking
you
it.
to keep going on with
Well,
that.
it's the same scale I've been making almost for the last 12 years, right?
Yeah.
This is the scale that I've been making.
Gotcha.
Right? These are McFarlane toys, and I'm at the McFarlane scale.
So, are you suggesting just get a new shelf and start your own DC Multiverse McFarlane Toys shelf then on?
No.
Unless you have like a whole
what I'm
Superman
saying
thing.
is you can put Spider-Man and Hulk on the shelf. Those aren't the same scale.
Well, I mean, they're not the same size.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But as far as having I 100% agree with what you're saying. I don't want to see you do the same thing that the previous license owner had. I would be sad, right?
So somebody started a scale in 1969. So the guy in 79 has to make that scale. In 89 and 2000, what are you talking about? Mm-hmm. Come on, right? They make big screen TVs now that are 72 inches. The TVs used to be this big, and they're getting down to it's a weird argument. It's a weird argument to just say I'm giving you too much.
Yeah, and I've heard people, when people have complained, I've heard them in their complaints, they complain comparing these figures to $100 import figures. That's at the level people are looking at, that the people that don't like them are looking at them. They're comparing them.
It's an $80 item, he's giving it to $20.
Yeah,
how dare he?
Yeah.
How dare he?
Oh, I mean, these things would easily be like $40. I wouldn't be upset getting that Hellbat for like $30-$40.
Right.
I'd totally see that, as a higher figure. So would you consider maybe trickling in more obscure characters maybe later on in the future as the line goes on?
No, and remember too, in some stores I'm next to the product that's coming out by Spin Master, right? Mm-hmm. So to me there has to be a market difference both in the look and the scale, right? Some of the price points and stuff like that. So because if we're all making the exact same thing at the same scale and the same size, then it doesn't make any kind of sense. So, but some of the cool characters, like I said, we're just getting warmed up.
I see Azrael over there. I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, if you like that stuff, more of that is coming down the pipeline.
Okay.
More of that kind of stuff is coming down the pipeline.
Okay.
And DC is getting behind us, and they're seeing that there's a value that, they've got one company that's doing a little bit more what I would call classic looks, mm-hmm. and then I'm going to be doing some of the figures that us geeks want, right? Mm-hmm. That never existed before.
Right.
They'll go, oh my gosh!
Finally.
Finally.
Yeah. You have so many other products coming out from different licenses too, like My Hero Academia, and then all kinds of and the video game Fortnite stuff. It's just all really doing well. I'm just really happy to see, and a lot of it's from the articulation. If you remember in the past, I've kind of reamed you many times asking about articulation. And I totally understand your perspective as an artist. You don't want to break up the sculpt and stuff like that. After some time now, like, how have you felt about that? Does it kind of like still pinch a nerve to see it that way with more broken up, or are you just okay? But that just answers the question. But
the thing is, but again, the feedback and the sales will dictate to me what they want, and so so I go, well, let's just try it then. Let's just see what happens if we put out cool articulated stuff, and people seem to like it because they're doing things with their toys that I wouldn't personally do. This is why, to me, I'm going, no, I just want these cool art pieces, right? Where other people now with the internet, they're doing like their own little films, and they're doing these little photos, and they're posting their Instagrams, and all. I understand all of that we live in a brand new world, and so people are using their toys differently than I grew up with when there wasn't all this stuff. So so we'll continue to experiment and do different things and give people different price points and different options in their toy. And just, to me, this is just a plastic buffet, right? You pay your $14.99 at the buffet, and you just put on your plate. You put on the plate what you want, and what you don't like, what doesn't taste good to you, what you personally dislike, you don't put on your plate, right? So I never, everything that I make here, I never expect any one individual to buy it all. I'm just saying, here's 100 items, put on your plate the things that you think are cool for you personally, and walk away from the other ones.
Makes sense, yeah. Now, speaking of plastic buffet, I mean, we're talking about how large these figures already are, how much plastic you're already giving us, and now you're going to throw in a Build-A-Figure in with some of these figures.
Yep.
Now, how big is this Build-A-Figure going to be?
Big.
It's going to be really big.
The first one's going to be big.
Oh man!
Right?
I want to know who it is.
Because the thing is that, to me, here's why. One, I think it just looks cool once you build it, and I know the character. Two, the big characters are better suited, I think, for build-up, because you can't quite do the same articulation with them because the assembly is different and the way that you do it. So you have to simplify it a little bit. But I think that the big characters, like, I don't know that you need 30 points of articulation on a Hulk, right? Because it's like you don't need to be doing sort of the same stuff that Spider-Man needs to be doing, or even Batgirl or something like that,
you don't
right?
need the heel over the head.
Right. So that's not their move. Their move is big and cumbersome. So we can then give you a big figure with limited articulation, because it's not going to necessarily have exactly the same as the other one. But it's cool. It's going to look cool. And, oh, by the way, it's going to play in with the other characters, so you'll go, oh, my God, I would have bought that if it was just its own regular figure. I would have bought it anyways, right? So, yeah.
Okay, I'm looking forward to that.
And I'm pretty sure it's a 4. It's a 4-figure build, right? Just, I don't need to go to 6,
that's cool.
I'm not gonna push the consumer.
So and one thing I think it's just really fascinating, because you are the only independently, privately owned company working on one of these larger scale, on these large licenses. So it's I've heard you say
Marvel and Star Wars. Maybe someday.
Maybe we'll get all of them.
And then I'll have my little McFarlane slice.
Yeah. You have all, but the thing is that I'm losing my question, because now you got me thinking about what you would do with Star Wars.
Yeah. No, to me it's still the value, right? So with all of it, you just
that's what I was trying to get at.
Right, you just sit there, just like I said with the build-up. You try to give as much value. You get a good figure to start with. They should want the figure that you're buying minus the build.
Yeah.
And then that you get the build, they should go, oh, that's cool, and then they turn it over and they go, what? I can get that? And that character should have some meaning, or should it, at worst, even if it doesn't have meaning, it should look super cool, right? That you just want, man, don't know who that guy is, but man, that looks badass. Right?
So, and I remember what I was trying to get at when you'd mentioned before, I'd seen you say online at one point how you don't have the same bottom line that you have to worry about with these larger companies. So
I'm a private company, so I don't have
to you're a private company, so you're really trying to give everybody as much as you possibly can for their dollar.
Right, so I engineer my math slightly different. instead of saying, how do we make this toy and then how do I basically make it for as cheap as possible so I can maximize my profits on that one toy, I go, just make a good-looking toy. Like this one, he costs obviously more than, Batgirl.
Right.
Same price.
Yeah.
Same price.
Yeah.
So I'm making less on this figure than I am on this figure.
Right.
But I think I'll sell every single one of those. So then you make it in volume and you make it up in reputation, and then you can sell something else. And so eventually, in my mind, I'll eventually make it somewhere somehow. It doesn't have to be in a straight line. When you're public, a lot of your accounting has to be in a straight line. They have to be able to look at charts that have rows and columns and Excel spreadsheets, and they have to be able to count it all. And I'm saying I can't count it, but I think that if I put these toys out there at a good value, it eventually it will pay dividends for me.
All right, so you're thinking big picture.
Yep.
Yeah. So
long term.
I
can afford because public companies don't have to do the same things that public companies do. I'm private. The public companies, every 90 days by law, they must report their sales publicly.
Yeah, they have to do the taxes every quarter.
No, what they call their earnings report.
They have to do earnings
every 4 times a year. Okay. So, you see in the stock market, stock dropped or went up because of an earnings report.
Gotcha.
So they're thinking in 90-day increments. I'm not thinking in 90-day increments.
You're thinking 30 years.
I got a 3-year license with DC Multiverse. I'm thinking at least 3 years.
Okay.
Going, what can I do now that will benefit me in 3 years?
Yeah.
Not 90 days.
That's excellent to hear. So one last question from you.
Do it.
You have so much stuff out here, and the way you're explaining it is that you put all this work into it, you let it out, and then you kind of see how people react to everything. What are you most anxious for as far as seeing the reaction out of the new product that you have out here? What are you dying to know what the fans think of as far as the new product that you have out here at the moment? Like, what's kind of really has you curious you really want to know what they'll think?
I mean, like the video game stuff is essentially built on the look and the models of the games themselves. So they're other than I need to get it accurate, right? So I can't really sort of bend the style and the art, because when I do my own stuff, I just let loose, and my designers, we let loose. So I would say of everything that's here, I'm curious how Cyberpunk's going to go first off, because that game's getting a lot of buzz, and it'd be cool because we could have a little bit of lightning in a bottle.
Gotcha.
But probably more so, I would say it'd be something like what you see there, my second wave of the DC Multiverse, with like the White Knight, because there's a style to it. And what I'm curious is whether there's an audience that's looking for some core characters that are stylistically done, and if the answer is yes, then there's literally a 60-year library of looks of comic books that same character has been drawn maybe by 50 different artists, 100 artists over the course of 20 years or something, and I can go and look at all of it and pick some of the cool pieces or the cool looks or whatever and put it together and go, oh my gosh, this is it. And so it doesn't look like any one artist. It'd just be like the best sort of Frankenstein hybrid cool version of that character, and people will go, love it, don't know, I'm not overly fluent with that character like these two, but man, that looks good in the package. Wow. Man, that looks good in the package. I get it. If I want classic, I got these ones over here that maybe another company's making. But if you just want sort of big, crazy, cool-looking stuff that's still dealing with some of the core ideas of the main characters in DC Multiverse, oh my God, look at this stuff that Mcfarlane keeps coming out with. And so I'm hoping that there's a big enough audience that either A, already knows those characters and want them because nobody's ever made them, or B, they just look good. Why are these two selling right now? I think it's the combo. I think because nobody's made them, so they're going, hey, I don't have these in my collection.
Right.
It's not like I'm duplicating.
Yep.
And then there's people walking by going, 8 years old, going, oh my God, Mom, that looks cool, and it's got a big bat symbol on it. I love Batman.
Yeah.
And that's the reason. Bucks. That's the reason they can get it. So both of those are wins for me. And if that can happen, then there are literally thousands and thousands of looks that I will go to my grave before I ever get to make. So
that's incredible hearing you just talk about it like that, because you failed to mention your own Batman design once again. So you're just thinking about what looks coolest. Like that's what's in the front of your mind. Like
some of them, I would like to make a couple of those drawings I did with the big giant capes.
Yeah, right? I'd love to see that.
That package is going to have to be this big. So that I can do it. So
that was actually the only one thing, like with the Spawn figure, I was kind of hoping the cape would be even bigger.
Yeah.
I was just thinking bigger with the cape, but everyone's going to want to see bigger and more.
Yep.
Thank you so much, Todd. You're a true artist at heart. That'll
never,
obviously will never go away from you ever. So appreciate your time. Appreciate all the work over here. Great stuff over
thanks
here.
Thanks for giving us the time again, coming out here. You come out here every year. I appreciate talking to you, bringing you the updates, and I hear and I like it that you push back a little bit on the questioning and try to get some of the reasoning and rationale. Sometimes it doesn't make sense, and other times, at times once you do give an explanation, and people go, "Oh, I didn't understand it from that perspective. I'm only doing it from my collecting perspective." Because sometimes it's even stuff like I make things a certain way because Walmart or Toys R Us asked me to, right?
Yeah.
If you want to stay in business, sometimes you have to say yes sir, no ma'am, to certain people to make sure that you stick around, so that we're now, like I said, close to 30 years of being in the business. I'd like to be around for another 30.
Nice. Yeah, no, and I'm sure you will. It's doing so well. So thanks again, Todd, and see you next year. And thanks for staying tuned. New York Toy Fair 2020. Hey, new ShartimusPrime videos. Hey, you should click one. Yeah, click on one of them. Or subscribe if you haven't. Your face.